In 2015, when I was 15 years old, my family moved to a really old house in Willow Creek, Ohio. It was made way back in 1890. Our house was nice, but the basement was really scary. It had old stone walls and lots of cobwebs. There were only 2 dim bulbs hanging from strings, and they barely lit up the dark basement. My mom didn't want to go into the basement because it scared her a lot. We'd tease her about it being a spooky, haunted place. But over time, I began going there more. I made a table for my hobbies and added brighter lights, but the rest of the basement still felt odd. The longer I stayed in that place, the more I saw odd stuff. Weird noises, not like the usual house sounds. Even my dog, who always stuck by me, stopped coming down there. But one day, he came down, hung around for a while, then suddenly growled into the dark and ran back upstairs. I took a flashlight and looked around, but there was nothing there. To feel less scared, I started talking to the dark corners, not like a spooky ghost thing, just chatting as if someone might hear. I made promises, talking about what I was doing, like in that Stephen King book, Christine, where the car works better if you treat it nicely. I decided to name the possible ghost Nathaniel, but I called him Nate for short. Whenever I was in the basement, I'd talk to Nate. It felt weird at first, but the more I did it, the less scary the basement felt. I'd ask Nate for small favors, like finding tools or helping me remember where I put things. And you know what? Sometimes things I couldn't find would suddenly show up where I'd already looked a lot. It felt like Nate was helping me. Once, something fell off a shelf right after I asked for a sign. Slowly, that scary feeling down there went away. My dog still doesn't really like it, but he hangs out downstairs sometimes now. I made a routine of it. Whenever I go downstairs, I say hello to Nate and talk about what I'm doing. It's sort of comforting to talk even if no one's there. I believe Nate likes the attention. In my opinion, he's a nice guy. Now, going to the basement isn't scary anymore. It's like having a friend there, even if you can't see them. It's weird how things change when you start talking to the darkness. But something crazy happened. One evening, I was in the basement working with wood when things got super weird. Tools started moving by themselves, and I heard whispers in the air. It felt like the basement was alive with things happening that I couldn't see. It was pretty spooky, honestly. I tried to stay calm, but this was really intense. Suddenly, my tools flew off the shelves for no reason. I ran upstairs, really scared, and told my parents everything. They didn't believe me at first, but when they saw the mess in the basement, they were shocked. The next day, we called the police. I had to tell them all about what happened, even about talking to Nate. They didn't quite believe me, but they checked everything carefully. They didn't find anything strange or any proof that someone or something caused the chaos. The cops looked into things for a while but couldn't figure out what happened. Meanwhile, I kept going to the basement to talk to Nate, hoping he'd feel better. He seemed really upset. One evening while I was there, everything got really still. It was like Nate was paying attention to me. I asked if I did something wrong and if I could help. Then, I felt a chilly breeze and this strange feeling, like someone was around but I couldn't see them. Out of nowhere, my dog, who usually avoided the basement, suddenly dashed down there wagging his tail. It was strange, like something had instantly changed. After that, the basement went back to being quiet and a bit spooky, but the really weird stuff never happened again. Even though the police couldn't figure it out, I knew what had happened. Nate, in some way, had made himself heard, and maybe I had unintentionally upset him. I was glad things went back to normal. Talking with Nate felt more calm and peaceful afterward, like we understood each other better. One time, when I was traveling from Vermont to Georgia, I stayed at this really old motel. It didn't look too great, not many cars parked there, and the lady at the front desk didn't seem happy. The whole place felt old and worn out, with old-fashioned furniture and weird wallpapers. But I was just there to sleep, not for anything fancy. I got there late, did my usual bedtime routine, and went to sleep. Then, at almost midnight, someone knocked on my door. I checked, but didn't see anyone through the peephole or under the door. The hallway was empty too. I thought it might be a joke, so I locked the door and tried to forget about it. First, I heard a knock on the door. I quickly got up, went to look through the tiny hole in the door to see who it was, but nobody was there. I checked outside, but nobody was around. I told the person at the front desk about the knocking, but they couldn't help much. I went back to my room, locked the door, and put on my headphones to listen to calming sounds so I wouldn't hear anything strange. It worked for a while, but then something weird happened. I saw a really tall figure in the room, like a giant person about 10 feet tall. My heart raced, so I turned on the light, and suddenly, it was gone. I felt scared for a bit. Then I calmed down, turned off the light, and tried to sleep. But a few minutes later, the giant figure appeared again. I turned on the light, and it disappeared. I packed my things, told the person at the front desk I was leaving early, and quickly left. I kept driving until I found another motel where I could stay without any scary surprises. But then things got really strange. The next morning, I was still really scared by what happened at that motel. So I decided to call the police just to tell them about the weird stuff. Surprisingly, they took me seriously. A police officer came, and I told him everything: the knocking, the strange huge figure that showed up and disappeared. He seemed worried and said they'd gotten similar strange reports from that motel before. People had complained about weird things happening and seeing strange stuff there. It wasn't about ghosts, more like disturbances and things nobody could explain. The cops said they'd investigate and wanted me to go with them in case I saw something important. I wasn't sure, but said yes anyway. We got to the motel, and the cop began asking the lady at the front desk questions. At first, she acted like she didn't know anything, but when the cop kept asking, she started acting nervous and uneasy. All of a sudden, she said something about an old story tied to the land where the motel was made. People used to talk about strange things and seeing weird stuff there. But then she took it back, saying it was just a rumor. But the police officer didn't believe her. He asked to see the security videos, and then things got surprising. The lady didn't want to at first, saying there were no cameras in the hallways. But after some pushing, she admitted there were cameras, but she said they weren't working that night. The officer didn't believe what she said. He wanted to check the videos from before I arrived, but she couldn't find any videos from those days, which made the officer very suspicious. So, he searched the whole area carefully. And you know what? In a room that was supposed to be empty, they found signs that someone had been there lately. It looked like someone had tried to hide their presence on purpose. The police said they'd look more into the motel and thanked me for helping. When I left, I felt like there might be secrets in that old motel, something hidden. I kept going on my journey, happy to leave that weird motel. But I couldn't forget the mystery of what really happened there. It stayed in my mind. Before I continue to the next story, if you are interested in earning from YouTube without showing your face, or without making videos by yourself using artificial intelligence, like the video that you are watching right now, then I have a special free training for you. Check the first link in the description below to get instant access. My boyfriend Alex and I moved to a new home recently. It's bigger than our old one and a good deal. We were really happy because we both have pet cats. At first, everything was okay. We were helping our cat settle in. But then, our older cat named Whiskers started acting weird. She would sit at the end of our bed and stare into the hallway all night. It was a bit scary. Both of us woke up to her making angry sounds at nothing we could see. At first, we thought she was just getting used to the new place and didn't think much of it. Alex was in the kitchen late at night for a drink when he thought he heard people talking. He thought it might be the neighbors, but then there was a really loud shot that made everything super quiet. The next night, I woke up because Whiskers, our pet, was making a scary low growling sound. It scared me because I was already stressed from work and couldn't sleep. The next morning, Alex asked if I had been waking up a lot because he heard footsteps in the hallway. He said it sounded like someone wearing boots walking on wood. The next night got scarier. I woke up because Whiskers was hissing again. I heard weird sounds like someone walking in the hallway. Even though I was half asleep, I was pretty sure I heard it. It felt spooky, like someone pacing back and forth. More strange stuff happened. Once we were folding clothes when there was a really loud crash from the kitchen. Then I heard a deep sigh and banging on the wall. We hurried there, but everything was okay. Nothing broken. We were really scared. We don't do drugs, and we're both okay in the head. We even checked the whole house, every little space, thinking maybe someone was there or an animal. But we found nothing. Our older cat Whiskers is usually quiet, but lately she's been acting strange. Some people say cats protect us from bad things, but it doesn't feel like that's the case. Our house was built in the 1970s, and the person who lived here before us had a lot of stuff. Besides that, we don't know much about the house's past. I've always believed in spirits, but I've never tried things like Ouija boards or rituals. Alex has had spooky experiences too. My girlfriend once listened to radio static with a friend and thinks she heard something predicting a family member's passing. Before things got strange, we didn't call the police. But last night, stuff got really weird. We heard lots of noises, like someone shuffling furniture in the kitchen. Then, there were knocks on the walls. It scared us a lot. So, we finally called the cops. They came and looked around, even put up cameras. But they didn't find anything odd. They said it might just be stress, or the house making weird sounds while it settles. It's really weird. We're trying our best to stay relaxed, but it's tough when strange things keep happening. Last night was quieter, but it feels like something big might happen soon. So we're here, trying to understand this without deciding too quickly. Some folks suggested smudging the house, so maybe we'll give that a try. It's hard not knowing why all these things are going on.